Hey guys and gals, it's Tripl-L and now it's time to talk Little Witch Academia, episode 25, the finale. And man, finally, we're at the end of the story. You know, for a Trigger series, I'm usually really happy when we reach the end. Because Trigger series are usually just series that you just watch for the season, and then it's usually a self-contained story and you can enjoy it and be done with it. But speaking of self-contained stories, there is a bit of news that I read up on for Little Witch Academia in regards of what season 2 or season 3 might look like, what they're hoping for. If you want that information, just stay tuned until the end of the video. I'll talk about it there. But anyway, guys, the finale, let's talk about it. So, in the spirit of transparency, I am re-recording this. I previously recorded a video that was 20 minutes plus long, and I think at that point that's too long. I can condense my points. I can get it going a lot more streamlined. So yeah, if I sound a bit tired, it's just because I finished and I was like, no, this is dumb. I'm not gonna make a 30-minute video. No. But yeah. And also in the spirit of transparency, just to say it, I came into this episode at the perspective of, I want to see how you're going to get yourselves out of this trigger. I want to see what you're going to do with your finale. I want to see what you're going to do with your 20 minutes instead of coming in with the perspective of, oh man, this is going to be just a good episode of Little Witch Academia. I'm really sad to see the series go, but man, I'm going to enjoy it. So ultimately I came in a bit more analytical, and that's really important because this episode, this finale, is ultimately created for the fans that don't have to look at it objectively, the fans that don't have to make comparisons, the fans that don't have to break it down. They're just there to enjoy it the way it's supposed to be. So, you know, this finale is made more for you. In terms of me, I don't think so. That said, I still enjoyed it. You know, Little Witch Academia entertains me, and this episode in particular had one element in it that I just thought was really clever, and I really wish I had asked that question more often in the past episodes, because the answer was right in front of us the whole time. And I'm actually, you know, just applause for Trigger, applause to them. And ultimately this episode actually has quite a few little elements inside of it, isolated elements that are just worthy of applause for Trigger, and it's just worthy of, hey, good job there, Trigger. I really appreciated that. So very quickly, I'm gonna just list it out. I'm not gonna talk too much about it. Just gonna list it out, what I think worked and what I think didn't work. And we're starting with what I think didn't work. First off, just overall, the problem of the missile, how we get to the problem. Little Witch Academia has made it clear time and time again, they don't care about the journey to how they get to have the problem that they need to solve. They care about just the moment. They care about the end result. They care about that. They don't care about the journey. We've seen this in past episodes. This is still a thing that's happening here. That whole the missile thing, the whole Croa explanation for the missile, you know, it's just to get us to a point where the girls have to chase down that missile. Everything before that really doesn't matter to that degree, because it's just a lot of Croa saying that she can't control this missile anymore and explaining and justifying why she can't control the missile anymore. Whatever. I already know that. I already know that's Little Witch Academia. But in terms of a finale, the threat itself is just, it's convoluted, it's contrived, it's cheap. It's ultimately kind of cheap. It's just one character's hubris went out of control. And ultimately, when you think about it, it's like this girl made a sentient being that took in people's emotions, a metaphysical concept, and then just hijacked everything. So this woman made a really advanced AI. And I'm going to touch back on this later because this is really important. But just in terms of getting us to the point of the climax, you know, it's just a means to an end. It's weak. It's a weak part of the episode. The other part of the episode that just wasn't working, Andrew's storyline for this episode. Because at the end of the day, what did Andrew become? He's just the supporter of the witches. That's his whole perspective in this episode. That's the only thing he's doing there. His only role in that little meeting is to just legitimize the witches. And is that a problem? No, not really. I mean, as one commenter said it, like, this is a show about little girls going to school to try to be witches. It's not about Andrew or his problems. But it's just unfortunate, in case you were a fan of Andrew, it's just unfortunate because his waiting at the end of the day is just, he has opinions that are friendly towards witches, and his storyline culminates in his father asking him about his opinions that are friendly towards witches. That's Andrew. The thing in Andrew's storyline that was also a bit kind of illustrative of the problem the Little Witch Academia had, especially in the first half of its series, was just a lot of times the characters are going to be caricatures of what they actually are. And in this episode, we had the case of the defense minister. Look, I think the man's an idiot. There's just no question. The fact of the matter is that he insinuated not telling an allied country that there was a missile heading towards them. And look, they're an allied country because if you're at the point where you can afford to have soccer matches between your guys and that your people are getting that riled up when there's like a decision that's made that they don't really enjoy, I'm sorry, you guys are probably allies. And the thing is, because you live in the Western world and because information just gets spread out that quickly, the idea that you won't tell your allied country that there's a missile, a rogue missile heading for them is ridiculous, especially when you're sending up your own intercepting missiles. There's no way that you're the only country that's going to find out about that in a regular situation. No, man, that's stupid. That was fundamentally stupid. But again, it's a caricature of a problem because we got the instant gratification when we got the prime minister coming in and telling him to shut up and let the girls do their thing. It's just unfortunate because, again, this is a caricature, not a character. This is just a guy that's being painted to be the dick, and we just want to see him get squashed, kinda. It's just something that the studio does to get people riled up. Now, speaking of the studio and getting people riled up, I mentioned earlier this is a finale for the fans. And what I mean by that is that there's a lot of feel-good moments in this. So let's start talking about the feel-good moments. So first off, that's just very early on in the episode for me. And just to give you guys the perspective, you know, the moment that we're going into this episode and they're explaining there's the missile, we need to get to it. And Lot says something. Lot says something about the speed of their brooms. And the moment that she says that, I'm just thinking, okay, here it is. The red broom, it's coming back. I know it's coming back. It's going to be epic. It's going to be awesome. That's how they're going to get to the missile. And then, you know, the episode starts unfolding. We actually get the girls working together. It's like, okay, I can get that. I can get behind that. And then we go into just a sequence and they're doing all their things. We'll talk about that later. And then we start the fight. And I'm just thinking, okay, we've started the fight, which means the only logical place that broom can come in is if one of the girls falls off the broom. And then, like clockwork, it happened. Just Akko falls off and that broom comes in. It's like, yes, this is what I wanted. That's all I needed. Yes, good. Thank you, Trigger. Appreciate it. I'll bow to you. Thank you, Trigger. I really appreciated that. And this is different than the faulty premising that was happening at the beginning of the episode. This is totally different because the broom has been referenced in a lot of the episodes of Little Witch Academia. Trigger has gone and put the effort of having little newspaper clippings detailing where that broom is in the world so that the viewers know that this broom is still a relevant player and it's probably going to come back. What that ultimately means is that this is a payoff. Trigger set it up. They had the details, they had the clues there for the fans who were wanting to look for it, and then they had the payoff in this episode. I am not going to take away any points for that. That's just awesome. Thank you. You set it up and you fulfilled. You came through. Thank you so much. I love you, Trigger. That was a pretty epic sequence once that broom came in. And before we start talking about epic sequences, I'm just going to talk about the epic sequence with Akko and Diana. I'm going to talk about that towards the end. But now going back to where the girls are all like lined up. The next thing that was a feel-good moment was when Akko says that they're the 9 new witches. And the thing is, like, here it divides depending on the perspective. From the perspective of the lovely Little Witch Academia fan, it's like, oh yeah, awesome. It's a feel-good moment, right? It's there to make the fans feel happy about the characters. They are given a title that is linked to greatness, and they make the fans feel like, yeah, these girls are great. They are great in our hearts, and they are great, and they're getting their recognition now. And it's like, when you look at it from the more objective point of view, you could make the argument that that's just lip service. Akko calling themselves the 9 new witches means nothing at all. It has no bearing on anything besides the fact that they're going to stop a missile. There's really nothing of importance there. There's nothing worthwhile about those girls. About the 7 girls otherwise. I'm being kind of meaner than I should be about it, but it's just to kind of bring the point across. It's just the title itself is at that point kind of meaningless when you think about it. It's just pretty much Akko going and just rallying the troops. The title itself doesn't really mean anything in practicality towards the story. It means more for the fans. And so it's a more feel-good moment for the fans, but it doesn't really mean anything overall. It doesn't carry any real weight. Is there a problem with that? No, not at all. Not at all. It's the last episode. They do what they want. It makes sense why Akko would say it in universe. And this is where I'm going to say my next props to Trigger. Like, props, Trigger. I did not realize you were going to go for that with the 9 witches that you had assembled there, including Ursula and Croa, and there was actually pretty smart. Like, props, Trigger. Props. Pretty cool, Trigger. And the other thing with the 9 witches title is that this kind of shows one of the weaknesses of the finale, in that when you say the 9 witches, you want to think that these girls are going to have equal importance, because the 9 old witches we know are probably of equal importance. They're pretty big deals for the genesis of magic and all that. But what the episode ultimately shows isn't anything near equal importance. If anything, Diana got a lot of attention in this. Diana's probably the one that's shining besides Akko. And beside Akko, like, it's Diana and Akko. And then the close runner-ups are Croa and Ursula. And I will talk about that later, because Croa and Ursula are a very, very interesting little conundrum that Little Witch Academia created for itself. But before that, going back to this idea of like equality, I'm not going to take away points for the finale. It's just because finales will usually have to compromise on something. Especially with anime, it's an industry, it's a business, and unfortunately for anime, there's a lot of market pressure, there's business pressures, there's deadlines. Things are going to be left on the wayside, things are going to be compromised on, things are going to have to be sacrificed. That's why when it comes to the issue of did the characters get enough justified screen time, I really can't take away anything from Little Witch Academia, because it's just not fair. The production, there was just no way that this was going to feel good if you were a Susie fan or a Lot fan. There's just, well, actually, Lot gets a little bit more than Susie, but when you compare it to Diana, it's just unfortunate. It's a little bit unfortunate, but Trigger did do their best in trying to justify giving the girls screen time. Again, the one that probably got the worst end of the stick is Jasminka, but that's something that I think Trigger just decided upon doing from a very long time ago. And now let's actually just kind of streamline into like another, Triggers, props for that. And that's specifically the extra attention that they gave some of the characters, or not the extra attention, like the little things that they let the characters do. So Trigger's not going to be able to give these characters these big grand moments that some of the characters might deserve, but Trigger is pretty good at slipping in some little small moments, and appreciated that. Now the characters that I'm thinking of particularly that got those little small moments are Lot. Diana's shouldn't even be counted in this, because Diana's does like a whole lot of stuff in this episode later. But Lot, and then Chariot, and then Croa. Those 3 characters probably got a little bit more attention, and I really appreciated them for that. And because Trigger did it in really clever ways, Trigger had Lot using her spirit magic, and then it had Croa and Ursula doing their thing. Ursula's thing is obvious, she was the one that was rallying people, but Croa's thing is just holy shit, man. And so just very quickly, props Trigger, you gave them more attention than I thought you were gonna, and I really respect you for that. Good job, guys. But now let's talk about Croa and Ursula, because I'm making a very clear distinction about Croa and Ursula, because they're a little problem. So the thing with Croa and Ursula, they're sidelined at the very beginning. They're sidelined. Like, they do their little thing. They give the girls some extra gear. They get stuff set up. But ultimately, they're sidelined. And Croa's saying lines that lead to the conclusion they're sidelined. Like, Croa saying that they're failures as teachers and whatnot. Whatever. But the thing is that, Chariot gets her moment. She rallies people up, and so she gets that moment of fulfillment. She's an entertainer. She's good at talking to crowds. We call back on that. Cool. But Croa does something that is ridiculous, in that she hacks every monitor across the world. within seconds. Look, man, again, following the logistical consistencies, that is freaking insane. Any hacker in the world would love to be able to do what Croa just did in this episode. Okay? That is ridiculous. That is like hacks on a whole other level, man. And so when you look at Croa and Ursula, you have Ursula, who for some reason knows how to fight to an extraordinary degree. And like one of the commenters in the last video said, like, why? Why does she wear like spandex under her uniform? Why does she seem like she's always ready to fight? What has she done in her life? She was supposed to be a performer. What the heck, man? And then you have Croa on the other hand, that's a techno god. She can hack anything and she can give life to things. And she can make something that can realistically go out of control and threaten the world. What the heck? These two characters on their own are horrifically terrifying. Croa in particular, because if Croa can hack every screen across the world with a combination of magics and technology, look, man, she could have ruled the entire world already. And that just... Okay, so excitement aside, it's just an issue that Little Witch Academia created for itself in that these two characters are exceedingly competent, but because of the narrative, we're never going to be getting the, I guess, acknowledgement that these two characters are exceedingly competent. Again, Croa in particular, because what she can do could really destroy things. It's just ridiculous when you like compare them and the girls. So in terms of the 9 new witches, realistically, I could see Chariot and Croa in that lineup, and maybe Diana, but that's because Diana's pretty good in general. And now going into Diana, like I said, this episode, Diana got a lot of attention. She's the one that's supporting Akko for those last like 6-7 minutes, and you know, just awesome. The whole climactic fight sequence with the dragon missile is just awesome. Pretty cool to watch, pretty fun to watch. Akko's doing metamorphosis. There's the whole bow thing. The bow's back, you know, Akko and Diana are working together. And, you know, then they have that really beautiful sequence where they're just, this is the most gorgeous that Diana and Akko have ever looked, just because they're drawn so nicely. And it's just like, wow, yeah, I'm really into that. That's pretty cool. And then there's a moment that happens in this episode, and I was kind of sad when it happened. Oh, not sad, I was just kind of like, oh no. And it's the moment that Diana grabs Akko's hand, and it's just like, I know that all the shippers are going to be so happy for that moment, and it's going to spark so much. And it's just like, oh boy. But, you know, whatever. Doesn't matter. Girl power. Go girls, do it. And, you know, their moment when they, like, save the world, it's like, yes, that was beautiful. Thank you, Trigger. Props, Trigger. That was freaking beautiful, man. I love you guys. Freaking beautiful. But yeah, otherwise, the whole climactic moment, it's just a climax. It's just pretty, when it's a climax like that versus a no-name enemy, like the enemy really was no name. It's just a missile that is just kind of angry. It's an angry missile. So no-name enemy, there's no real need to have the girls talking. And so the sequence just goes very quickly. And then Akko like gives off her message. And this is pretty much just, I guess, what Little Witch Academia is preaching. So, you know, in terms of premise for this finale, it's pretty shaky. In terms of the storyline that was going in the background with Andrew, shaky. But in terms of thematics, Little Witch Academia is still Little Witch Academia. At the end of the day, it's preaching a message of peace, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And Akko's message at the end has now, it's kind of gone away from the aspect of performing and just gone more towards a general, I want the world to be happy. So, you know, she legitimately wants a world where there isn't no struggle, where the people don't feel the need to have to be mean to each other or be bad to each other. Just a world of smiles, which is a nice idea. And we get that imagery when she destroys the missile. We get a nice smiley face across the world. Now, you know, that's Little Witch Academia. It's idealism at its finest right at that moment. Am I going to take away points for that? No, because Little Witch Academia is still being relatively truthful or relatively anchored to its initial ideals, and that was just a general positive message. Nothing wrong with that. So, you know, at the end of the day, that's this finale. It's a feel-good finale. It's a finale that should make you happy as a Little Witch Academia fan. It wraps up the majority of the plot threads that it sets up. Really, the only people that got shafted here are some of the characters, like Susie, Lot, Jasminka, without a doubt, Amanda, Constance. those are the characters that got shafted. But in thematics, in terms of its long-running plot of the 7 words, we've got enough information that we can be happy with the conclusion. And then we have the epilogue. I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but my favorite things about shows are epilogues. I love epilogues. For Little Witch Academia's epilogue, it's just another feel-good epilogue. It's just a feel-good epilogue. Very interesting in the characters they decided to bring along with Andrew, but a very nice epilogue. Personally, my favorite types of epilogues are the many years later epilogues, just because I like kind of seeing what happens after that. I want to know that they're having a happy life. But I understand why they wouldn't want to do a many years later epilogue. And that might just be specifically because let's talk about the little bit of news that I dug up. Now, this is from March, I believe. It's around from March. So this was just them talking about, or one of the creators talking about what he wanted to do with Little Witch Academia. And ultimately what they're saying is that 25 episodes isn't enough. He has a lot of ideas that he wants to work on for Little Witch Academia. And ultimately what they're saying is that the team doesn't have enough time to delve into some characters, delve deeper into the characters. And some people that they pointed out were things like Diana and Amanda. So that's pretty cool. They also mentioned that they would like to do a spin-off series, maybe one centered around Shiny Chariot, or maybe one centered around the Nightfall books that appear in the series. And actually, speaking of Nightfall, now I remember, we got to see some characters from the older episodes, and that's again lip service, just to make you feel good about everything. But, when we're coming back to this, Little Witch Academia, whether or not it succeeds financially, it's going to be what says whether or not Little Witch Academia will be getting any kind of continuation. We might still get OVAs. OVAs are really easy to produce comparatively, so I would assume that those are still easily within reach. But whether or not we get another season, it's really going to depend on whether or not people support this series. I'm not sure how popular the series is. It's going to be kind of tough to actually say. And also, the thing is, Little Witch Academia, at the end of the day, you have to ask, is it a good series? Would I say it's a good series? I would say, yeah, I would say it's a good series. Is it a great series? I don't know. That gets kind of harder. On a technical level, it might not be a great series. Is it entertaining though? Is the entertaining value there? It's yes, there's an entertainment value. And ultimately the question should be, would you recommend this series to someone? Because this is how it's going to work for Little Witch Academia. It's going to be word of mouth. Would you recommend this series to someone? And for me, it all relies on one stipulation. Are you a casual fan? Are you just a casual anime fan? You don't really watch anime that often. You just kind of want something to pass the time, just have fun with something. If you say yes, then yes, I would wholeheartedly just recommend this series. It's on Netflix. It's going to be on Netflix. Just take it. Watch it. Netflix. Woo. Awesome. If you're a more seasoned anime viewer, I'd have to ask for your taste and then just, tell you about the series to see if you would be into it. But ultimately, the good thing is that it's such a general series that you could easily give it to relatively kind of fresh people and hope that they would like it. And chances are they might like it. And the thing is, because Little Witch Academia is going to be on Netflix, it gives another dimension to the whole financial success for Little Witch Academia. And so if it succeeds on Netflix, I think that would be very good. If it succeeds on Netflix, then we can expect that the chances of it getting some kind of continuation are a little bit higher. And that would be pretty freaking awesome. Whew, okay, wow, 24 minutes. I think I'm missing one point that I still have to talk about. Oh, yeah, the last thing I wanted to do was just make a quick comparison to the OVA. In terms of climactic finales, honestly, I think in terms of the villain or the final monster that they fought, I think the OVA, the Magic Parade one, I think that one did it better because the villain there just kind of had it had more weight to Akko as a character because Akko was a performer, or she was kind of going towards that kind of angle. And so you had that monster popping up during a festival and you had them working very closely with the people instead of being sent energy from the people. And so, I think the OVA has a slightly better climactic fight in terms of the weight behind it. But then with this climax is actually, and this is the point I remember now, thank God I talked about this. This climax is better for one thing, and that is the answer of what might have caused the decline in magic. Because in this one we see the magic going to Echo as everyone's believing in them. And it's just, this is what I was talking about in the beginning. The thing that is just the biggest good job Trigger, the props to Trigger. Chariot's line about a believing heart is magic is actually, like, probably when you think about it, the most true thing in this whole series. And the thing I was thinking about is just, if all it took was people believing in magic, believing in these witches, and you know, Chariot says like, oh, it's because the girls believe in it too. It's like, no. There's a bunch of magic coming up from people who are watching them. No, it makes sense. You know, the grand age of magic. No wonder magic died, because in the grand age of magic, everyone was terrified of witches. Everyone was scared of witches. Everyone believed that magic was as real as their neighbor being a witch, which was actually might have happened pretty often. But the point is, like, in the medieval times or in the Dark Ages, because there was not, science was not that developed, you know, people believed in magic more. So when you have this like last sequence, this is how I'm interpreting it. Everyone believing is what causes magic to exist, which makes Chariot's whole statement about a believing heart is magic is just like, Jesus Christ, she had the answer to this whole drought the whole time. It's actually just whether or not people believe in magic. And so, you know, again, that's just like, it dawned on me. I was like, wow, Trigger, wow. I wish I asked the question, why was magic more prevalent in the old times? And it's simply because people thought magic was real to an extent that they were terrified of witches for it. And it's just like, yeah, I'm happy with that. And so that's the biggest props to Trigger that I'm going to give for this finale. Overall, finale for Little Witch Academia, good. Pretty good. But I'm really curious to hear what you guys are going to say. Now, this video is 27 minutes. I can't believe that. I assume that the other video that would have been made if I hadn't scrapped it would have been upwards to 50 minutes. So thank God I saved you guys 20 minutes. But if you got to the end of this video, please let me know down below. Say something like hashtag it's the end. No. Hashtag Echo and Diana forever. Yeah. That one. That's good. Hashtag Echo and Diana forever. Oh, nice. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. Till next time. I hope you have a great day. If there's any news updates on Little Witch Academia, though, I will try and keep you guys informed if you want that. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Till next time. A believing heart is magic.